It was nearly midnight when the car cut through the dark road between Johannesburg and Natal. Journalist Michael Sheldon had been driving for 6 hours. The headlights swept across the empty asphalt of the Transvaal while the speedometer held steady between 55 and 65 miles per hour. His passenger dozed in the seat beside him, a folded newspaper resting on his chest. Then she appeared. Less than 150 yards ahead, standing dead center in the lane, a woman waved her right arm. Michael lifted his foot from the accelerator. There had been nothing there before. No car, no light, no sign of life on either side of the road. She had simply materialized. Stay until the end of this video, because the moment Michael discovered who that woman was, he found something you'll never forget, an answer that is far more unsettling than any mystery. Michael nudged his passenger, Jan Bukes, a reporter from the same paper. He wasn't going to stop without Jan being fully awake. That stretch of road was notorious for attacks on unwary motorists. Jan rubbed his eyes, looked ahead, and suddenly went rigid. "Stop the car," he said. "It's the woman of Dunswart." Michael hit the brakes hard. The car skidded left toward a deep trench. At the very edge of the drop, it lurched to a stop. The woman was still there, exactly 150 yards away, exactly where she had been when the car had been speeding toward her at full force. She hadn't moved, hadn't stepped back. She remained the same impossible distance away as the car had rushed to close that gap. Then the road lit up. A train roared through the Dunswart crossing at 50 miles per hour. The whistle split the night. The wheels thundered over the rails less than 160 feet from the car's front bumper. Had Michael not stopped in time, the impact would have been head-on. Both men would have died right there. When he looked back to where the woman had been standing, the road was empty. It was June 23, 1949, but that woman had first been seen 10 years earlier. The Dunswart crossing sat a few miles outside Benoni, in the heart of the Rand, South Africa. The railway line cut across the main road at grade level. No gates, no barriers, no adequate warning. For years, Johannesburg newspapers had recorded motorists who braked suddenly at that precise point, always in the moments before a train passed. And they always said the same thing: there was a woman in the middle of the road. Mrs. Molly Kurtzy of Boksburg described the figure with surgical precision: between 20 and 22 years old, 5 feet 2 inches tall, flaxen hair, wearing a fawn-colored swagger coat, and barefoot. Mrs. Kurtzy was a woman, and she noticed the bare feet because no woman could possibly miss that detail. The instant her car stopped, the figure vanished. The train passed 3 seconds later. Skeptics said she'd been hallucinating, that it was fatigue, that the dark road had played tricks on her tired mind. Mrs. Kurtzy took them to court. She proved she had never consumed alcohol in her life, that her reputation was beyond question, and she received a substantial settlement for defamation. She had seen that woman. Then came the case of Lieutenant Alfred Parks, a senior police officer. He and Sergeant Dennis Richter were traveling in the opposite direction when a man and woman came running out of the trees along the roadside, waving desperately. "Fools," the lieutenant muttered. "Do they want to get killed?" Richter hit the brakes. The car stopped. The train thundered past. The lieutenant got out to question the couple. There was no one there. Police surrounded the entire area within minutes, not a trace. Michael Sheldon, now consumed by the mystery, secured official cooperation and spent 3 nights hidden 30 yards from the crossing, alongside a constable. On the 3rd night, a young woman emerged from bushes 5 yards away, walked to the center of the road, and began waving her arms. The constable leaped up and ran toward her. She seemed to flee and dissolved into the mist settling over the asphalt. 1 second later, a car collided with the train. The driver, whom no apparition had warned that night, was killed. Weeks later, Michael was transferred to another city. He forgot about Dunswart. 2 years passed. until the night the woman saved him, too. This time, he decided he would find the answer. He spent 2 full weeks combing through the newspaper archives, searching everything published about that crossing before the first recorded sighting. And then, in a double-column story, he found what he was looking for. The headline was simple: "Couple killed in Dunswart crash." A 22-year-old woman had been riding pillion on a motorcycle when it struck the train. As she lay dying on the asphalt, waiting for the ambulance, someone managed to hear her last whispered words. "George, George, I warned you a train was coming." The physical description of the young woman matched exactly what every witness had reported over 10 years, and the description of the young man who also died in that crash matched those who had reported seeing a couple in the road. Michael now had her name: Dulcie Hutton. The South African Railways finally installed crossing gates at Dunswart, and Michael decided to do one last thing. On the exact anniversary of the accident, he returned with 2 colleagues. At 11:20 that night, less than 8 yards from where they stood, a gray figure materialized at the edge of the road. Michael didn't move. He didn't stand. He simply called out into the dark. "Dulcie, Dulcie Hutton." The figure shuddered. "Dulcie Hutton," he said again. "It's safe now. You can rest." The young woman seemed to look at him through the gray night mist, and then, almost with a sigh, she faded from sight. At the same moment, headlights appeared in the distance, and the new red crossing lights began to flash, safely stopping the approaching car. Dulcie Hutton was never seen at Dunswart again. At least, not as far as anyone knows. Because there is one question Michael Sheldon never answered, one that no crossing gate resolves. In the moment he spoke her name, what exactly shuddered in that mist? What compels a young woman who died in an accident to return night after night for 10 years to save strangers from a fate she could not escape herself? Maybe she never realized the danger had passed, or maybe she knew and simply couldn't stop. Sometimes the most absolute form of devotion doesn't end with death.